Hello there, you're listening to the Box Office Show. I'm Ryan Hill.
And I'm Dylan Johnson. Today we're going to be talking about the box office numbers from last weekend and our box office predictions for this upcoming weekend.
We will also be doing the second part of our franchise retrospective on the Mission Impossible series. This time we're doing the second trilogy, Mission Impossible 4, 5, and 6. And to help us do that, we're having our favorite special agent return to the show, Kirk Simpson. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This podcast will self-destruct in 90 to 120 minutes.
Giving Ethan Hunt plenty of time to get away.
Exactly.
He's got a good lead.
It's always a little fizzle, you know. The self-destruct makes it seem very ominous, but it's just a little smoke rising up there.
Mm-hmm. Now to do some news really quick. Just alone, lonely, lonesome by myself. No Ryan at all, just me. We have some news. The Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping film has another casting announcement. Kieran Culkin has been cast as a young Caesar Flickman, taking over from Stanley Tucci, who played the role in the original films. That is exciting. I love Kieran Culkin. He's just won an Oscar. He's really hot talent right now. He's great. Very much looking forward to that. And the other big news is the Cannes Film Festival has really taken off. Started last week. It is really going through all this week. And I have a lot of movies here that I have been keeping an eye on, that I've gotten reviews, and that I'm very excited for. That I will be watching all of these films, and I highly recommend that you give it a shot too. I have no idea if they're good. I mean, I haven't seen them, but just heard good things from the festival. We're going to start with Sentimental Value. That is a new movie by Joachim Trier, who, of course, has made many Norwegian films over the last many years, most notably, to me at least, Worst Person in the World, which came out in 2021. That was one of my favorite movies of that year. It would have been my favorite of the year had I not seen Drive My Car. Drive My Car blew me out of the water, but Worst Person in the World is one of the best movies I've seen in the last several years, and so I'm very, very excited for Sentimental Value. It's getting great reviews, starring Renata Renzi, who was, of course, in Worst Person in the World. She's the main character. It looks like she's the main character in this one again, so very good collaboration that's going on here. Stellan Skarsgård and Elle Fanning will also be joining Renata Renzi, and I'm very much looking forward to it. It's getting great reviews, as good reviews as Worst Person in the World got, and so I'm very, very hyped. It was on my top 10 movies anticipated before the Cannes Film Festival came out that we did earlier in the year, and it is just even more hype now that it's getting such great reviews. Sirat by Spanish filmmaker Oliver, I'm going to butcher his last name. I believe it's pronounced Laxi, something like that. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It is a post-apocalyptic story set in Morocco about a father searching for his daughter following a rave, and it is starring Sergi Lopez, the Spanish actor who I know most notably from Pan's Labyrinth as the sadistic colonel or military man. I don't remember what rank he's at, but he's fantastic in that movie, and it'll be good to see him perform again. I haven't seen anything since, so I'm looking forward to seeing Sirat when I get the chance. The History of Sound, starring Josh O'Connor and Paul Mescal, two of the world's boyfriends right now, apparently. It is a period piece set in World War I America about two fellows journeying across the country to record their fellow Americans. I'm assuming it's just about a road trip, about connecting with people and recording them and hearing their stories and hearing their sound. Something about that. There's just not much being known about this, but it has gotten pretty good reviews so far, and I'm a big fan of Josh O'Connor, and of course Paul Mescal is one of my favorites right now. Very much looking forward to that. Speaking of Josh O'Connor, he has another movie at the Cannes Film Festival called The Mastermind. This is I don't know what movie, but maybe the fourth or fifth by Kelly Reichardt, who is an up-and-comer these last several years, since 2015, 2016, around there. Starring Josh O'Connor, John Magara, Bill Camp, Hope David, and Alana Haim. Very stacked cast. It is about thieves stealing paintings in broad daylight in 1970, from what I can tell. So it's another period piece. I haven't seen any of Kelly Reichardt's films, but they come very highly recommended from a lot of people that I know, and I will definitely be checking out several of them before watching The Mastermind, especially First Cow. I hear a lot of good things about, so keep an eye out for this one. And Sound of Falling, which is the second feature by Masha Shalinsky, a German filmmaker. It follows generations in a family in Germany. It is one of the highest regarded films at the Cannes Film Festival this year. It's gotten enormous praise from critics. It is said to be an absolute masterpiece, maybe even more so than the best film of the year, maybe even the best film of the decade. It's supposed to be incredible. Very much looking forward to that. Very high on my list. Pilion, which is a gay BDSM romance between Alexander Skarsgård, who's obviously the Dom, and Harry Melling, who's obviously the sub. And I don't know anything else about it other than that. It just sounds good to me. I will be checking it out for sure. I'm a big fan of both of them as actors. Alexander Skarsgård, of course, has been killing it these last several years. I really enjoyed his work in Big Little Lies, and I think that will come back around here in this one as well. And I love him in The Northman as well. And Harry Melling, I haven't seen him in much, but outside of the Harry Potter movies, of course, I do really enjoy his performance in The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, the very short bit that he's in. I think he's fantastic. And so looking forward to that. Eddington, the new Ari Aster movie, another movie that was in my top 10 or top 10 potentials before the Cannes Film Festival even came out, starring Pedro Pascal, Emma Stone, Joaquin Phoenix. It is a commentary about the COVID-19 epidemic from 2020, as well as our current state of political affairs, where Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix come to odds in a mayoral campaign in a small town in the Midwest, or in the West. Southwest. It's in the Southwest. That's what it is. I mean, it's gotten very mixed reviews so far, as did his last movie. I can't remember the name. But I'm looking forward to it. I've enjoyed all of Ari Aster's work. I think there's always something to be said there, something interesting that happens. And who doesn't want to watch Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix have it out? You know, it sounds very, very exciting. And the last movie I'll mention is The Secret Agent, which is a Brazilian thriller about a man on the run in the 1970s during the dictatorship in Brazil. It is starring Wagner Moura, and it's supposed to be one of his greatest performances. It's being hailed as a possible awards contender. Fantastic performance from him. And it's almost 3 hours long. It's supposed to be an incredible movie. I really enjoyed I'm Still Here last year, another Brazilian film about the dictatorship in the 70s. And so I'm very excited to see this film and see how they sort of compare telling those stories in the same time period in the same country. And who doesn't love a good thriller, you know? Who doesn't love Wagner Moura? Now let's do our box office breakdown for May 16th to May 18th. In first place, Final Destination Bloodlines, no surprise, $51.6 million. Incredible outing. Incredible job for Final Destination. This is a huge, huge win for the franchise. Biggest opening by far. Has overtaken one or two of the films' total gross in just its opening weekend already because of how big and massive this movie is. Fantastic. In second place, Thunderbolts with $16.6 million, followed by Sinners with $15.2 million, and then a Minecraft movie with $5.9 million. That brings the Minecraft movie's worldwide total to $930 million so far. It is very, very close to $1 billion, but as we'll talk about later, there's a couple of big movies coming out this upcoming weekend, and as much as I really want the Minecraft movie to get to $1 billion because it's on my roster, it is starting to slow down a lot. It's only making a couple million every weekend domestically and another couple million internationally. And so it might just stall out around 950, 960 and just be just shy of $1 billion, which is sad because I wanted to make as much money as possible, of course. But it did its job. It made quite a bit of money. It was, third on my roster? It's pretty good for a third pick. Following Minecraft movie, The Accountant 2 made $4.7 million, followed by Hurry Up Tomorrow, The Weeknd's movie, making $3.3 million in its debut. Abysmal. Horrible, horrible performance. I've heard nothing but bad things about this movie, and it is very, very sad that Jenna Ortega's star power and The Weeknd's star power could not save this film from terrible reviews and terrible outing. Just $3.3 million is very, very low. Friendship, in its pre-release, made $1.4 million. Now, it's not wide released. That is $1.4 million in only 60 theaters nationally, which is this weekend the highest theater average by a lot. It made almost $24,000 on average per theater, which is higher than the next highest grossing by 10,000. It was Final Destination Bloodlines made, I think, 13,000 technically per theater. So that's a pretty good limited opening for Friendship. So shout out Tim Robinson, shout out Paul Rudd, Andrew DeYoung. Great outing. And I'm looking forward to watching this movie next week. I will be reviewing it on the show shortly, I'm sure. Clown in a Cornfield with 1.3 million. Until Dawn, 811,000. Rounding out the top 10, The Amateur, 724,000. Now let's look at our box office predictions for May 23rd to the 25th, and technically the 26th, because it's Memorial Day weekend, so we will be doing the 3-day and the 4-day count. 2 huge movies coming out: Lilo and Stitch, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Lilo and Stitch is on Ryan's roster. It was his 4th pick. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is on my roster. It was my 5th pick. So we are kind of doing battle this weekend. I guarantee you, Lilo and Stitch is going to blow Mission Impossible out of the water. I guarantee you. I mean, there's a reason it was his 3rd pick, and Mission Impossible was my 5th pick. It is going to do gangbuster kind of numbers. We are looking at easily over 100 million in the 3-day for Lilo and Stitch, possibly over $150 million in the 4-day. That is an insane record number to do for any movie in Memorial Day weekend. And this would be a huge, huge win for Ryan. This is his first movie to come out so far this year on his roster. This would be a really, really strong start for him. Mission Impossible, on the other hand, we're looking at like 65 million in the 4-day. Hopefully we can cross 80 million in the 3-day, 80 million in the 4-day. Hopefully. Domestically, that would be great. That would be a really, really good, solid start. I'm hoping Mission Impossible ends up around 500 to 600 million worldwide. That'd be fantastic. We will see where it gets. It's just a matter of legs at this point. Obviously, Lilo and Stitch is going to blow it out of the water in the opening, but I'm hoping Mission Impossible will have longer legs and will possibly do better percentage-wise internationally than Lilo and Stitch will. And the only other movie coming out is Friendship, which is going wide. Obviously, it made 1.4 million. It was in the top 10 already last week. But this is its wide release coming up soon. So, I mean, it's expanding from 60 theaters to thousands. Who knows how much it'll make? I'm hoping it can crack 6 million. That'd be really great, really strong. Looking forward to seeing that. I'll be reviewing that for sure. And speaking of Mission Impossible, let's turn it over to the boys and myself to go ahead and talk about the Mission Impossible franchise.
Let's go ahead and jump right into our discussion of Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Mm-hmm. Now, in our first franchise retrospective, we talked a bit about our first time being familiar with the series, our first time watching the series, and this one was the first film that I had watched of the Mission Impossible series, the first one in theaters as well. So, because of that, I have very fond memories with it. So I'm curious to hear about y'all, how you first saw Ghost Protocol. Was it your first time seeing it in theaters? Seeing a Mission Impossible movie in theaters?
Absolutely. In a way. I don't remember if I told this the last time, but the first time I saw any Mission Impossible anything was I saw this movie at my local Gold's Gym, which had a cardio cinema, which was just a bunch of treadmills in a dark room that would play movies, and they happened to be showing Ghost Protocol, and I came in about the time that they were breaking into the Kremlin and was instantly hooked. I stayed through the rest of the movie.
That's perfect. You could run with Tom Cruise.
Exactly. And feel ashamed of how slowly I run.
They'll put up like a little pace thing on the screen that says how fast he's running, and you can just match his pace.
That's a great motivation, though.
Yeah.
And just be watching him just booking it. Because again, it's like a full-on sprint like that.
Yeah.
Top of the rooftops. Seems fun. Seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What about you, Dylan?
Yeah, this was the first one I saw. I saw it in theaters New Year's Eve, and the ball dropped while we were in the theater watching it. Wow. So like we went for like the midnight showing on New Year's Eve to go see it. I remember doing that with my family. So this was very impactful for me. This was my favorite for a long time until Fallout came out, just because of like how iconic a lot of the scenes are. The Burj Khalifa scene in particular was very much like impactful for me as an 11-year-old watching like this big action franchise for the first time. Mm-hmm. And like the only action movies I'd seen up until this point were like kind of cheesy action comedies, like a la the 2000s, like The Pacifier, shit like that, or superhero movies at that point, like Spider-Man movies, the Dark Knight movies had been coming out, things like that. You know, those are the only things I had seen. I hadn't even seen Inception yet at 11 years old. That had come out. Yeah, that had come out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this was my first like deep dive into like a spy kind of action was Ghost Protocol, seeing that in theaters. And then
Mm.
I've been in love with that genre ever since. I've become a huge James Bond fan since. I remember seeing Skyfall in theaters and having my mind blown. And I remember buying a bunch of James Bond DVDs from the old age. I have 6 of the Sean Connery movies on DVD and 3 of the Roger Moore movies on DVD. And so I watched all of those, and then I started watching Jason Bourne movies, and I saw a bunch of those. And I saw Jason Bourne in theaters, I think with you, Ryan,
Wow.
in 2016. Were you there?
No.
Okay. Well, I saw it with some other people in high school at the time. Yeah. And just in love with spy stuff in general. I've been following the Mission Impossible franchise very closely ever since. I remember after this movie came out, though, I tried to go back and watch, when I was a little bit older, I tried to go back and watch the first 3. And when I watched the first one, I got really, really scared because of, I think we talked about it on the last pod, but in the opening sequence when Emilio Estevez looks up and the elevator like stabs him,
Yeah.
dude, that shit gave me nightmares for a
It's-
long, long time. It is
it's
a very
scarring.
intense imagery. It's Brian De Palma, so it makes
Oh,
sense,
yeah.
but that is like a very, very intense thing for me to see as probably a 12 or 13-year-old child.
Oh,
I went,
yeah.
oh my God, that's crazy.
I think these, especially these 3 that we're going to talk about today, are really special in that they're such great kind of like entry points for that kind of cinema.
Mhm.
Like I think when I was growing up, I thought of Bond as being not necessarily stuffy because the things that Daniel Craig was doing was more updated and cool, but
Yeah.
it has such a long history to it
Mhm.
that you're like, this isn't really for me. And like Jason Bourne for Sheltered Little Kirk was a little bit too intense,
Yeah,
physical. But Tom Cruise hanging off the side of the building, that's something everybody can enjoy.
Making little
So
witty
it's-
remarks with Simon Pegg.
Exactly,
Yeah. It's very
exactly.
accessible.
Feeling a little scandalous when he goes, no shit. Like, ooh.
It's a great line. It's a great line delivery.
He has some of the best line deliveries. He has some of the best face acting
Oh,
in the
yeah.
whole franchise in this.
Yeah.
The little looks that he gives, especially the hallway sequence, which I'm sure
Mhm.
we're going to get into. That was that just absolutely blew my mind about just
Mhm.
the scene construction.
Yeah, just to go back on that point there, like the Kremlin, infiltrating the Kremlin and that whole hallway thing. In the first film, particularly, they did a lot of the face gags where they would have Tom Cruise in makeup as he's
Mhm.
impersonating someone, and then it became a lot about just masks, creating masks, and then it would just be the actual actor who
Yeah.
is playing Ethan Hunt, playing whatever that character is.
Yeah.
Like Philip Seymour Hoffman in the third one.
Exactly.
hmm
But
The
this
most
one,
iconic, the coughing. The
dude,
coughing
again,
fit.
that coughing is
It's
just
so good. The
legendary.
20-second coming.
The hand gesture
The
is
specific
like
gesture,
so
gripping whatever
specific.
napkin or paper towel he's
Yeah.
holding.
It's like so perfectly Tom Cruise. It's absurd.
It's amazing.
But yeah, so in this one, we get a little bit of a return to Tom
Mhm.
Cruise actually being in
Yeah.
and some makeup and some get up. You know, he put
Yeah.
on a little mustache, put on the
Yeah.
Russian attire. So,
And it's interesting. I feel like with the De Palma, it's very one-to-one. Like I feel like it's the details are so specific. I almost feel like in this one, I don't know if you noticed, I watched the first half of it last night.
Mhm.
I feel like the passport like photo of the actual guy, quote unquote,
Mhm.
is Tom Cruise in slightly more prosthetics than he's actually in
Yeah.
at the Kremlin. Like I
Probably.
think it's a more detailed, like what an actual disguise of that would be, which I just love as a detail.
And
So
this
then
one they
it kind of
just gave
makes
him, like-
sense that the guard wouldn't immediately recognize him
Yep.
because he's not him.
Yeah. And they just give him like a mustache in this one, and then they like
Yeah.
put the hat a little bit deeper on him. And
Exactly.
I think maybe do something to his jaw, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Not much though.
No,
It's enough
'cause
to
it's
where
all
he can
gotta
get away
be-
with just taking off the mustache and walking quickly away.
And what a sick transition that
It
is. When
is.
he closes the doors, all behind him, rips out the Bruce Springsteen t-shirt, flips around the jacket. I love it all so much.
It's great, yeah. There's a lot of like very iconic things in here. I will say though, if I'm going to like levy a criticism against it, it's a criticism I've had since I was 11 years old and I saw it the first time. I'm just not a fan of the villain in this one.
Real
Very,
whiff.
very unfortunate.
It's,
And I
it's
don't think it has-
sandwiched between Mission Impossible 3, who I still think had the best villain, and then now we get Solomon Lane becomes
Who's probably
like
the
a
second best
prominent feature. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
definitely the second best villain. So it's like, yeah, sandwiched between those two, especially, it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
this is just a run of the mill.
And it's tough
Well-
because he's just barely in it. He's barely in the whole
Exactly.
thing. You
And I think
he has,
I know why that
he doesn't even
is.
say anything at the end. Like they get into a big action fight and he has no lines of dialogue.
He jumps off.
He just
Yeah, he
dies.
Kills himself.
It doesn't even feel like he's really a villain because he's not in it barely at all.
No,
Yeah.
and I think that has to do partly with how the movie was constructed because this was supposed to be a handoff of the franchise from Tom Cruise to Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
And then Tom Cruise is like, not on my watch, and brings Christopher McQuarrie in to do some rewrites. And I think that's where they spent most of their time, was reshaping Tom's image and really focusing the movie on him, probably to the detriment of Michael Nyqvist.
Yeah. And that's why I think this movie, more so than this being the first part of like the third trilogy, I kind of see it as like the weird middle child of the Mission Impossible family, where the first three are very clearly like a trilogy on their own, with new directors each time that are trying to do it differently. They're trying to find a tone and they're not really sure of it. And then the movies after, which are all just Christopher McQuarrie and have a very consistent tone and know what they are. And this was just kind of like, we're trying to rebrand again.
Yeah.
And it's changing so much from the first three. And it is setting a certain tone that Christopher McQuarrie kind of copies going forward. They're all very similar to Ghost Protocol in a way, which is why it feels like it's a trilogy on its own. But the story is just so it's so vastly different, and it just feels so differently shaped than those Christopher McQuarrie ones, because it's not about building up to something greater. It's just about trying to be a one singular like movie, one single like plot point. I think Brad Bird does a fantastic job directing too. I think this is
wonderful director.
To me, this is like the second best shot spy movie right behind Skyfall, because I just loved the way all of those intricate little scenes looked, especially the scene in India where they're at the party. It's just shot gorgeous.
Following that little jumping fountain around.
I think the one shot of like the open window in the Burj Khalifa, and then Tom Cruise walks into frame backlit, and then he leans out and the camera follows him and goes all the way out and just takes its time with him like stepping outside of the window. Yeah. Fantastic.
I don't know if you remember. Did you see it in IMAX when you saw it in theaters?
Oh God, I can't remember.
Because that's one, they don't have it on the DVD release, but apparently in the original IMAX release, when he's walking forward to that open window, that's when like the curtain rises and the letterboxing spreads out to make the full IMAX format, and like it just feels breathtaking, even having never experienced it.
That would be awesome. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Ryan, what about you? Any comments about Ghost Protocol, about the way it's shot, or about the villain?
I just want to talk more about the Burj Khalifa sequence.
Burj Khalifa
because, dude, since 2011, since even those trailers, I mean, those all over the trailers, and I was like, oh, this is going to be iconic. We need to go see this.
Yeah.
And it absolutely did not fail then, does not fail now. It's incredible. It's exhilarating. Again, I was listening to Tom Cruise give a speech. He like announced Christopher McQuarrie coming out to accept some award at CinemaCon this past year. And so he talked about the influence that McHugh, as he calls him, had on Ghost Protocol. And I think this goes to a little bit to the point of why, compared to especially like Rogue Nation and Fallout, the plot and like the villain particularly in this one feels more just like run of the mill. We're just going places randomly when we
there was a bomb, we have to stop it.
Yeah. Is because apparently they were just figuring out the script as they were going along, because Brad Bird, is a director, but not very much a screenwriter. And then with Christopher McQuarrie, when they had him come on, he was like consulting for some of these scenes and helping them figure it out. They knew they wanted that sequence, but they didn't know how exactly to construct it in a way that would allow the audience to understand everything that's happening and feel that tension alongside the character as he's like trying to get to this place, hanging off the tallest building in the world. So he gave the little story about how it was McHugh who came up with the little thing that they say of blue is glue, red is dead.
Red is dead.
Which again, just very great, very succinct, snappy. Like it absolutely gets the message across. But yeah, so they were talking about how that whole, like, as they were trying to plan that out, like the characters are planning that out, they just didn't know what the plan was, what the game plan was. They had already shot him scaling the Burj Khalifa and doing all that, but they were like, okay, now we need to actually ground it in the plot and what the characters are feeling, what the stakes are, and how they're going to get beat to beat to beat through this massive set piece. And so that's just a credit to McHugh being able to come on set and like work that out on the day. And then it's what we see, as we'll talk about more with Rogue Nation and Fallout. He definitely helps elevate these later films and make them feel more intentional in their construction and having all these different threads coming together. It just feels a lot more well put together and thoughtful.
Yeah.
And so that's a massive credit to him. But the actual scene itself of just that man Tom Cruise scaling it, and then the one glove starts malfunctioning, and he just takes it off, throws it away. And
It
he's like,
doesn't
Does a
matter.
little more, and it's still there.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen that sequence when he's cutting the hole out and he falls. It like catches me by surprise
Yeah,
every
dude.
time. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And speaking to that line, blue is glue, red is dead, it's like speaks to what a kind of great screenwriter McHugh is, because one of the things that I heard in an interview with Brad Bird talking about this movie that he wanted to do was he wanted to make a Mission Impossible movie where like none of the technology works.
Yeah.
Which basically starts as soon as they get their message at the payphone and they say this message will self-destruct, and then it doesn't, and he's got to go back and like bang on it, and from then basically every piece of technology that they try to use,
which I love,
that they
It's
try
like
to
the-
do.
screws them.
That's
The
very
I
mask
love I love
fails.
the Ghost Protocol bit that they are like now a shadowy organization that has
Yeah.
no backup. It's
Yeah.
just them, and so everything keeps failing, and there's just nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, we
It's
have
a great
whatever's
bit
in
to
this
go
train
with.
car.
Yep, it's fantastic, and then it just keeps failing on them.
Yeah, which is great. If you look around that train car, they've got like everything in there that they use for the rest of the movie. There's Simon Pegg's little fake arm that he uses when he's being the tea waiter. That's in a little bin over there. Like, it's all there. So shout out to production design.
very clever stuff. But yeah, the end of that sequence too, with him having to use the rope and swing because it's whatever he used to tie himself, I guess some cords,
Yeah.
whatever it was, not long enough, so he has to go run across the building. Awesome, looks incredible, amazing,
Fantastic.
and then leap, and then he smacks his face on there, so he doesn't even get like the clean landing, and then they all have to like grab him, hold him, and
Barrel
bring him
monkeys.
back up.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic. But the other part of that scene was just as delightful. The whole dual con that they're trying to pull.
Yeah,
Of
that's great.
giving the nuclear codes while also getting the diamonds and giving them over, and duping both of the people. Like that was sensational. I love
the
that.
whole bit of like they're supposed to be giving them fake documents, but then they have to change it because they have a verifier there. So they're facilitating. They're the middleman for a transaction that is fully complete by the end of the sequence.
Yeah.
And the only difference is now that there's a tracker in the case, which is the only benefit to this whole thing. But it's a tracker that only works in a half-mile range because their technology does not work very well.
And then we get that
We're gonna run through
sandstorm.
a sandstorm.
Darude sandstorm.
Now, why do you guys know why does the bad guy? Why does Cobalt wear a mask?
I don't know.
In that sequence.
That's the other
why
thing
is
I don't
why is he
like
not
is-
just him?
I don't like it because that could have been such a good opportunity for him to like be the
Be a
villain.
villain, yeah.
Just be himself. I don't know
It
if
feels
they
like a retroactive.
did they just
thing.
want like a younger guy doing the action bits, but he's not even like doing a lot of the action in it.
Yeah.
He just runs and then gets in a car. They
Yeah.
don't really have a fist fight. They don't really have like a gunfight. He just kind of leaves.
And it's one of those things where he's in the movie so little that when it like tears partially,
You
like
don't
I have
even get-
no idea who that is. I know that guy's wearing a mask. That's interesting. I don't know who's under it.
Yeah. Dude, also, rest in peace, Leia Seydoux. She just gets kicked out of the Burger
Yeah.
Khalifa. Oh my God. Dude.
Sick way to die.
Brutal.
Also, this movie starts what is a fantastic trend for the rest of these movies of casting the most gorgeous women you've ever seen in your life.
Mhm. Oh,
From
yeah.
Leia Seydoux through
Paula Patton,
Rebecca
man.
Ferguson, Paula Patton.
Dude,
oh my
Hollywood
God,
failed
Haley
Paula
Atwell.
Patton. She's so good in this movie.
Crazy good in this movie.
Paula Patton deserves better.
Yeah, but I think we're putting so much emphasis on the Burge, and rightly so. But it's just because the rest of the movie from there, for me, doesn't work quite as well. Like
That's
I
fair.
like the sequence in India. I like Jeremy Renner doing some indoor skydiving, but
Yeah.
it's not overly memorable in the way.
I
that-
liked it. I thought the bits were pretty good with that.
I thought Jeremy
Yeah.
Renner
Jump on the
his
fan and
parts were
everything.
great.
yeah,
Like I thought that was some really solid
Him
stuff.
having to like psych himself up.
yeah. I don't know. For me, it just I think it works well if you don't know that the other movies are coming.
Mhm.
When I'm doing my rewatches, I'm like, yeah, this is great, but like the sequence in Rogue Nation, which we'll get to, from like training to hold your breath to holding your breath through the motorcycle chase, that like 45-minute chunk is kind of unparalleled.
We'll talk about that. I don't know if it's unparalleled
Yeah.
with this trilogy, but Yeah, I will say again compared to what they do, because they definitely started getting to the point of upping the ante every single
Yeah.
time. So yeah, some of the stuff they did here, I mean, it started with the Burj Khalifa thing, and then they just went crazier and crazier from there. But I think some of the smaller moments, again, yeah, like Jeremy Renner jumping down, and then they were like, "Did you jump?" And he was like, "Was I not supposed to?" After
It's
3 minutes
funny.
of them being like, "Jump, dude."
Yeah.
Like I thought that was great. I also really appreciated the uh, that whole thing. I'd totally forgotten about this plot line of he was like, "Yeah, I was the one that was supposed to be protecting
Mhm.
Ethan Hunt's
Yeah.
wife, and he thought
Yeah.
that she had died because Hunt had to go and fake her death to protect her. So
Yeah.
he's just carrying this guilt along the whole time, and now he's on the mission with this guy that he thought he failed terribly. So I thought that was a compelling thing that they had thrown in there. Uh,
Mhm.
and then it was resolved nicely at the end when he's like, I can't be part of this. I can't be in the IMF. And then Ethan Hunt is like, hey, it wasn't your fault. It didn't happen. She's good. She's okay.
Yeah.
And you're a great agent. So we need you back out there. I thought that
Yeah.
was very nicely done. Because I was waiting. I was like, there's just something not quite right here with the character dynamics and this team. So once that
Yeah.
happened, and I was like, oh, like, yes, that was good. That was a very
Mhm.
good thing they added.
Yeah. It's also kind of, we spent so much time in 3 with Ethan and his wife,
Yes.
and like making that connection so strong that it really would have felt, it would have just done a disservice to her and her character to just totally write her out. It's nice to see that kind of come full circle at the end. Be like, no, we're still cool, but also Ethan gets to go out and have fun and do missions now still.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So I love that.
Yeah.
But screw Renner. We got Benji in the field now.
Yeah,
That's
this is
true.
And he's
this is a
so
great
happy to
addition.
be there. And he so wants to wear a mask, and he doesn't
Yeah, the
get to wear
Kremlin scene
one.
where he just keeps talking in English as they walk around because he's just so nervous and he can't help himself and talk about how happy he is, but how nervous he is at the same time. And Tom Cruise is like, "Shut up." It's great.
So to like him standing up in front of the camera and his giant face showing
Oh,
up
yeah.
in the hallway.
That's a great bit too. I think
Yeah.
the camera thing is really, really cool. I remember liking that a lot as a kid and being like,
Yeah.
that is like a smart way to advance in a hallway
Yeah.
without being seen. And then when the multiple guards come in and it can't like focus on one
Yeah.
face, and so the
Yeah.
perspective
It's a
keeps
great
changing on the
reveal.
thing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It just feels like a real piece of technology, even though it kind of isn't,
Yeah. Yeah.
or at
Yeah.
least not in that quality.
Yeah. But it's also then to the like plot and structural point, like he goes, they're breaking into the Kremlin to go get these files. He goes to the files, and the way that the bad guy is thwarting them is by planting a bomb and hijacking their system to make it seem like he's part of the team breaking into the Kremlin.
Hmm.
Like that's something that took me 3 or 4 watches at least to like wrap my head around, why is he doing this and why is he here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's disappointing because I think that's a great reveal for a villain. Is like they're all in the middle of the mission, they're about to finish it. It's gone off pretty much without a hitch. And then in their intercoms, they can hear just like a guy choking. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's like the slow reveal and then the crack of the guy's neck.
Yeah.
And then he starts like giving away like the fact that there's a heist going on. It's such a great reveal for a villain, and then a villain that ends up doing nothing for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Except killing himself in a car park. Which also, he could have just thrown the bomb down there. He didn't have to jump himself.
He didn't have to bring himself. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little
It would have
silly
been way
that he
cooler
did.
if he threw it and he was standing there and Ethan got in the car and drove it and hit him and knocked him down and drove the car into his body. Like what happens in David Harbour in The Green Hornet. That's what should have happened. That would have been sick.
Yeah.
Might have been a little intense for a PG-13 movie, but
Yeah.
a better villain would have gotten a better death.
Yeah. Yeah. He would have deserved it. Yeah. I feel like car park in general, I think it's a fine sequence.
No, it's awesome.
I liked it.
is
Yeah.
very
You
fun.
guys are fully in
always-
on it?
I've always
Yeah.
remembered it.
I do think the sequence is great. I think the ending is anticlimactic when he kills himself.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of Tom Cruise having to get there fast and he just jumps a car off of it. It's very It's very Ethan Hunt to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. It just doesn't. It's underwhelming to me in the course of everything else. I think just because the Burj is so big
Yeah.
that it's hard to. You really just like shot the moon, and you can't go anywhere higher than that in your own movie.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to restructure to make that your ending, but just putting that in the middle it's just so impressive that for me it's hard to get jazzed by the rest that comes up.
Sure, I can understand that. I still think it's, to me, the strength of the Mission Impossible franchise as great as to see like the one big stunt Tom Cruise does in every movie, I think seeing like the simultaneous storylines going on and like the issues that impact all of them, which impact each other at the same time, that is when it's like at its strongest.
Yeah.
I think they do that pretty good at the end of Ghost Protocol in the India sequence, because you've got they're trying to track down they're trying to drive through all the crowds. Benji's trying to get there. Jeremy Renner's trying to get there. Once they finally get there, Tom Cruise is now hunting down the Russian guy, and Jeremy Renner has to fight the other Russian guy. Or I guess he's not Russian, he's Swedish. But he's trying to fight the other guy. And the only way that they can get it back online is if Benji plugs in all the wires correctly, they get the power on, and then Tom Cruise gets the device and hits it and disarms the bomb. Like all three things have to happen to make it work. And Paula Patton's out because she just got shot. Yeah. So like everything is like going wrong, and they're still trying to make it right. And I think it's great.
I do love that the button doesn't work.
Yeah, he says mission accomplished, which is like the most cringe thing you could say. And he hits it and nothing happens.
That was
which is just a great payoff to nothing working for them. I do think that comes together nicely.
Oh yeah, I think it works. I think this is still like a very iconic action movie from my youth.
Sure.
And I don't think I have seen it since it came out or around that time. It's been a long, long time since I've seen
it a bunch on TV. Like I'll always, if I see it around, like back when, cable was there and I'm surfing through the TV guide, if I saw it, I would click on it and be hoping that it's like, okay, are we at the Burj Khalifa sequence?
Please be at the Burj.
Because I would just watch through all that.
Yeah.
I think even though like in the first movie when he does the wire work in the heist sequence, even though that's like very much a very prominent part of the Mission Impossible franchise, I still think the Burj Khalifa is the most iconic.
Oh, easily.
It was like the first time they did like a really big stunt and then advertised it for the movie. Like the advertisement for the movie was watch Tom Cruise do this insane stunt.
Yeah.
And then that was the formula every single time after. Watch Tom Cruise hang off the side of a plane. Watch Tom Cruise jump out of a plane like 30,000 feet in the air. Watch Tom Cruise leap over a fucking
parachute off a cliff.
Yeah. Drive a motorcycle off a cliff and parachute onto a train. Watch Tom Cruise hang off of a biplane in the middle of a biplane sequence.
Yeah.
He's gonna jump. He's gonna jump between the planes. I still think we'll see what they do, but I have a feeling that they have another stunt. I think they've clued into the fact that they always have stunts, but I think they're gonna have another like marquee stunt that they're not advertising. So we're gonna have the planes, and they're not showing him jumping the planes, which is smart. And then I think they're going to have another big one as well to get more people talking. Because, they did the Dead Reckoning one to death. Everyone was like, okay, we've seen it.
That one was bad.
I could jump that cliff at this point, the way we've seen it. So
I wish they hadn't shown the whole fucking thing. I wish they just cut it off before he hit the cliff.
Yeah.
And that the jump part itself would be like suspenseful. But by the time you get to that part in the movie, it's like, I've seen this exact shot so many times already that it's not
one of those things
anymore.
It's unfortunately for that movie, that stunt is so much more impressive as a stunt than it is like cinematically
fitting into the movie.
Or even just like cinematic, like it's hard to show, like it's very easy to show Tom Cruise like hanging his toes off the edge of the Burj Khalifa, like looking out that window and being like, holy shit, we're 130 feet in the air. It's harder to get that sense of scale with the cliff. And that's, I think, why you have to do that behind the scenes, showing the whole thing to be like, no, yeah, man, I saw him. He's really in the air right now. Like, that's wild. And it doesn't work as well in the movie.
Yeah. Well, all right. For Ghost Protocol, how many sticky gloves out of 5? I remain very high on this film. I think it's a blast. I think it's great. And I'll always have that special feeling from seeing it in theaters that first time. I give it 4 sticky gloves out of 5.
All right. I think that this is a very iconic film from my childhood, and even though that I do take issue with some of the plot points and the story structure, and kind of the fact that it felt like they were setting up a different version of the IMF that kind of gets discarded a little bit in Rogue Nation, then completely wiped away by the time you get to Fallout. I think it was still like a good setup to kind of change the franchise and become something new. And even though it is kind of that weird middle child in this franchise, I do remain strong on it as well. The Burj Khalifa is still, I think, the most iconic sequence in Mission Impossible franchise. I'm also going to give it 4.
So this is very interesting. Do you guys give half sticky gloves, or do I?
Yes, you do.
Yep, we go
by half. Okay,
no 0.3, 0.2 stuff. That's ridiculous. 0.5, yes,
sure. I think I've been more down on it than Dylan. I'm still giving it 4.5 sticky gloves. out of
Oh,
5 because the Burj is so
It is iconic.
monumental, and it just, I mean, everything leading up to that, I would say, is borderline like a perfect movie.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it just kind of falters a little bit at the end for me doesn't even get rid of a whole star.
I can understand that. Dude, him running down the Burj Khalifa is the crazy shot I've ever
I
seen in
know.
any of these movies. It is so awesome.
He like
I've
runs
never seen
down and
anything so
jumps
cool.
over the camera and then and you can see him like, nobody really runs, like that's cartoon physics to run down a building. So you
Yeah.
can see him like kind of faking it a little bit, but it's
Because
still
he's
is
just
so
falling.
sick.
He's
Yeah,
doing a running motion, but he's fucking
exactly.
falling. He's not like slowing down his speed by making contact with the building. He's just
No.
falling at a normal speed,
Yeah.
and he's just making it look like he's running, but it's still fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's
the craziest
fantastic.
thing. I love it.
I know we get to Rogue Nation. It's McHugh's first directorial effort in the Mission Impossible franchise, and I think he really takes it by the helmet, makes it more of his own than I think he takes what Brad Bird did, and I think he just, instead of changing it, builds upon it,
Mm-hmm.
and he makes it more of a McHugh kind of story and makes the whole thing kind of make a little more sense. Gives us a much better villain, gives us a lot of really good action sequences that kind of combine together in really great ways, and I think gives a very good obstacle for Ethan Hunt to go against, which is that he has been disavowed and is on the run from the United States government for over 6 months. By the time the real action of the movie starts, he's fully like in depth here, you know, in a way that he has not been in the past, except for maybe the first one. But I mean, that was only like what, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I think it's. I don't remember nearly anything from this movie before I
Really?
rewatched it. Yeah, there was just not much. I remember the plane in the beginning, of course, because that is the iconic
Yeah.
big stunt of the movie. They just get it right off the bat, which is a fun way to start the movie for sure. It is fantastic. Him holding on to that thing, very impressive.
Mhm.
And I remember parts of like the assassination attempt sequence where Rebecca
the
Ferguson
opera?
is wearing the dress. Yeah, the opera.
Yeah.
And I remember Tom Cruise having to deal with a lot there, but I remember what it was. And I remember the holding your breath sequence, of course, because that is all the iconic midway action
Mhm.
sequence, and then the motorcycle chase after. And that's pretty much all I remembered. I didn't even remember
Fascinating.
that. Dude, I've been watching Fallout so many times. I was surprised to see Solomon Lane look like that. He just looks so different.
that is a fair point. He looks very, very different. He looks so scraggly by
Absolutely.
Fallout that it's hard
Yeah.
to tell that it's here. This will be a very interesting conversation because this, for me, this was my first in theaters Mission Impossible.
Okay.
So I have a lot of love for this one. And this is one that, for me, every time I go back, I forget how much I actually love it and how much I'm like, oh, that's right. This sequence is coming up. This sequence is coming up. Because I remember seeing this with my mom and my brother over like summer break or whenever it came out. I remember like holding my breath in the theaters trying to outlast Tom Cruise in that tank
too.
and failing.
Yeah, I remember doing that too.
And it's just, I think this movie flows so well. And I will stand by that. I think from like breath holding sequence to car chase to bike chase, that sick Hawaiian shirt that he's wearing the whole time, for me, is one of the best stretches out of the whole franchise.
It is pretty good. I do remember the bike chase being pretty sick, and I think the way it ends is a little anticlimactic. I wasn't a big fan of Rebecca Ferguson
the
just
box
using her
catch
aura
is
to
not
stop
as
him.
yeah
She just stands there and he bails, and then that's
It'd
the
work
end of
on
it.
me, I'll tell you that.
yeah.
I didn't say it wouldn't work on me. I'm saying it shouldn't have worked on Ethan
It
Hunt.
shouldn't have worked on a super spy.
The thing I forgot was I forgot the entire, like, was it Austria or Hungary or wherever it was?
Yeah.
But that whole sequence, completely forgot.
Which one,
So-
the opera sequence, or when
opera.
Alec Baldwin gets to say the line, "Hunt is the living, breathing manifestation of destiny," which is fire.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. But and then when you find out that he's saying that to Hunt, and he's like, I kind of am, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I like that. The opera sequence, and so her like loading the gun and everything, but it's like a flute or whatever
Yep.
it is.
It's like a bass flute. Yeah.
And then they have her, which they did in Dead Reckoning, but like when she props up the leg and everything, they're just going all in. They're like, Rebecca Ferguson she's fantastic. So
This is like her big
"Let's-"
breakthrough into like Hollywood cinema.
Yeah.
Was Rogue Nation.
And thank God, because she's great.
She's never
And
looked back. Yeah.
Dr. Sleep, she's
Yeah.
great in that.
Yeah.
Love her
Dune
in
movies.
Dune.
Fantastic.
So
R.I.P. I still can't believe that wasn't a fake out death
Yeah.
on the bridge in
I'm still
Venice.
holding out hope, but that's part of why you guys remember the episode where I'm
I do.
pissed about that. I'm like, I love
Yeah.
Ilsa, I love Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
Why would they do this? It pisses me off. Although
Isn't a
Haley
fake out
Atwell
death
is
kinda
incredible,
cheap?
but
Yeah.
well, also because they did it. We're not going to relitigate. We'll go listen to that episode again. But anyway, point is, she's awesome, a great
Yes.
addition.
Yes,
And in
she
Rogue
is.
Nation, again, the whole like us trying to figure out what is she after, what is she doing. Like I think all of that is very effective because she's just so spellbinding in the same way that Tom Cruise is meant to be taken with her, and like there's something about her. We want to help her out, figure out what's going on, but she keeps just like backstabbing and betraying, and there's something else going on. She gets pulled back in, and it's like that like frustrating but still compelling back and forth that she has, I think worked really well. And that was something I had forgotten about in Rogue Nation.
Yeah, it's more of a spy thriller than lot of the other Mission Impossibles actually are. Because I think they try to start making it a spy thriller, but very quickly just becomes an action movie start to finish. And I think this one very heavily leans into like there's a shadow organization. Ethan Hunt is working against them. You don't know who to trust, and he has to like kind of suss out what to do.
This one easily has the most bureaucracy since the first one.
Absolutely, yeah. Which I think helps it a lot. But I would say that the plot feels significantly elevated as opposed to the last few of these movies, to where I'm like, I need a little more exposition to like what is going on, who's who. What are you trying to do? What is in the fucking who? So there's a double agent who's actually a triple agent who's trying to blackmail Solomon Lane, who has taken this information that is supposedly a ledger and put it onto a secret drive in an isolated tech base in Morocco, and now you have to swim up a tube to get that ledger so that Ilsa Faust can leave it's like a very complicated plot that
it is.
It takes a little bit of work to jump in, and I think they did the right thing in not over explaining it and hand holding, which I appreciate, and I could just enjoy the action. But at a certain point, I'm like, so it has taken me a few watches to really understand, because I remember watching in the theater and being like, I just don't know who the villain is other than Solomon Lane, and I don't really know, like, okay, so they got him. Does that mean the Rogue Nation has been defeated? And then that question gets answered in Fallout, of course, but I just didn't know at the end of the movie. I was like, is the Syndicate done? I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, I didn't have an issue with like the plot and the way they were doling out information for that. I did have an issue with just the continual asking the audience to buy into the fact that Solomon Lane would give so many chances to Ilsa, which I don't think, maybe Kirk, you can speak to this, was fully explained. And like maybe you can write it off as he's also spellbound by her, in love with her or something.
It's the same reason that Tom Cruise bailed on the bike. It's just aura.
Just the aura.
Is it's hard to deny.
It was hard for me to buy into that because again, Solomon Lane.
Did you watch her come out of the pool?
I sure did, and it was
out of the pool, right?
Yes, I saw. Look, I saw the get pushed up. I saw. Okay, I'm just saying. I don't think Solomon Lane is the guy that would be, continually against his own best interest with the syndicate thing that he's been planning up for however many decades.
Virgin? Are you kidding? Come on, man.
So I'm like, I don't understand. Like that just felt like, okay, we need to keep her around because we're not going to kill her off in this movie. So we have to keep her around. And so we can't let Solomon kill her, even though it would be like the obvious thing. Like he shoots some other guy, like bodyguard. She's like, then take the shot. Like, I'm not going to play these games. And so he shoots the person next to her.
It implies that he wanted to kill her, but for some reason couldn't.
Yeah.
I was like,
so
what was the reason
that's the one part that holds me back where I'm like, I don't really buy. Like at a certain point, I'm just like, plot armor is heavy.
When he does finally say kill her, like he can't kill Ethan Hunt because Ethan Hunt has the codes.
And he's taking shots at him too. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like he's the one that has the stuff. So I'm like, you're getting a little silly now. At one point you were all disciplined and now you're getting trigger happy. This is a little.
He's getting frustrated at the end, man. He's worn out.
He runs out of options. That I don't mind. At the end of the movie, not just because it looks sick when he's firing right into his face and hitting the bulletproof glass.
Well, that part's great, but he's captured at that point. I mean, when he's like shooting him when Tom Cruise tries to slip down that thing.
Yeah. I think
he's aiming for his hands, man. He's just trying to get a flesh wound in there.
Yeah, he's aiming for the legs, aiming for something. I think it's just one of those things. Yeah.
You got a gun, you gotta take a shot.
Yeah. I think it definitely is a plot convenience thing. I think for me, I never thought of the plot as overly I think it is if you like really like dig down into okay, what's actually happening here. But I think they do a good job of making it like, all right, Solomon Lane, bad guy. There's a whole bunch of bad guys. Anybody Tom Cruise fights, bad guy.
Yeah.
Ilsa Faust,
Don't know.
we'll see. But everything else is fairly black and white. And as far as like you at least knowing who you should be rooting for and who you should be rooting against. If you know why you're rooting for or against them, a little bit less important.
Yeah, they make that clear. It's like you know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, but you don't really know why, and you don't really have to. Just enjoy the action.
Exactly.
You know?
And I
told
think
you why,
that,
and you can figure it out later after the movie's
yes,
over.
if
That's
you're
just the
really
action.
interested, you can. But I think the movie kind of knows that people don't pay that much attention to the plots in these things because when they have that great escape sequence in when they're being tortured by the bone carver or whatever that guy's name is, where he's jumping up the pole and going down and fighting with
Iconic.
Faust.
Iconic.
Fantastic. But he has that line. He looks at her and goes, "Have we met?"
Yeah.
Like, and the answer is no. But that's not really for him. That's for us to be like, "Don't worry,
She's
like,
new.
we also don't know who she is. She's new. You're gonna find out. Don't worry."
Yeah.
No,
So-
that's pretty good. But yeah, that sequence I've always remembered him climbing up the pole and then the bike chase are like the two ones that have always been burned into my brain because I haven't seen it since
Yeah.
it came
There's
out.
a fantastic shot where he's booking it down the hallway after that like interrogation escape,
And they're
it's
shooting
like
after him?
brick, and there's like bullet things firing on each side.
Oh,
It's
it's
like
great,
there's
yeah.
no way, like realistically, you could never hit every single one of those bricks in that order, but it looks so sick.
To me, all that matters is that it looks cool. I don't give a shit
Yeah.
about the realism. When it comes to action scenes, just make it look cool as shit.
Oh yeah,
You're
and
you're
these
devoting
absolutely
something to
do.
film here. You know, I just
Yeah.
want it to look awesome.
Yeah, I think Brad Bird in Ghost Protocol is very good with the like broader sweeping action, like following Tom Cruise, like climbing towers and doing those
Yeah.
intense things. But I think he struggles a bit with the hand-to-hand combat, and I think McHugh really nails it in this
All the
one.
time,
These are
Rebecca
some intense
Ferguson
fights.
climbs up on someone's shoulders and knocks him down. It happens at least
Yeah.
twice.
Uh-huh.
Very, very cool.
That's
Another
great.
thing about Ghost Protocol I forgot to say, but the
Yeah.
car chase after the Burj Khalifa sequence when he's in the dust, I just don't know what's going on. And that's inherently kind of the case. He's in a dust storm. I know that.
Yeah.
But it's even worse than that. Like I just can't follow the action until he
Yeah.
hits the other car. And then I'm like, okay, I'm back in it.
Yeah.
But all the whole car stuff, I'm like, what is going on? Where is he? Is he on a highway now? There's other cars now. Now there's no other cars. Now
Mhm.
he's turning around somewhere. And they even include a map so I can see like a little mini map like on a video game. I know where he's
Yeah.
pointed and where he's going to go. And it's like I still really don't know.
Doesn't really help. Yeah. I think McQuarrie has such a good sense of like geography
Yeah.
in a scene. You always know where Ethan is, where the guy he's fighting is,
Yeah,
where
because
everybody is.
I think that's
Especially
a great
in the
example
opera
in,
sequence.
yeah, I was about to say, yeah, that's a great example in this movie. There's so
Yeah.
many moving pieces in that. You have to know where the prime minister is, or whatever the fuck his name, the head of state or whatever. You have to know where he is. You have to know where Elsa is. You have to know where Tom Cruise is while he's fighting the one guy on top of all the things. You have to
That
know
are
where the
going up
end
and
of the
down
theater
the whole
is, where
time.
Benji is
Yeah.
with the other guy. There's so many, and then all the pieces are also moving because it's a moving theater like
Yeah.
exhibition. So Ilsa's like tower that she's in is moving back and forth the whole time. And I
Yeah.
do kind of just know where everybody is the whole point.
And there's that great shot because you're like, you're waiting for a specific note in the music, but unless you've seen Turn Dot, you don't really know what that is. And there's the great, like, I think it's pretty sure it's a digital camera of just like going over the sheet music and like hovering on that high B flat or whatever that note is. And just be like, all right, this is it. It's coming up. And so you just see that guy go, and then like everything is just coming to a culmination. This movie is edited. So like that sequence specifically is really
It's
just
pretty good, yeah.
put together so nicely.
100%. That was beautifully constructed.
Yeah.
The whole underwater thing, though, him like holding his breath and all that.
Mhm.
That one I didn't fully take to. If I'm being
I can
honest,
understand
I was
that.
not fully thrilled. But then I do love after that when he's like resurrected,
Mhm.
and then he's like just so out of it, and he's driving. He's like, "Should you be driving
Easily
right
one
now?"
of the funniest
he's like,
sequences.
"I can do it."
He dives over the car and just bails off the side.
It's so good, really, really good.
Tom Cruise is very
you
good
were
at
dead.
those moments of being like a very, very serious, committed action actor, and then just giving like a very funny moment that's very real in the scene. He's
Yeah.
very good at that. Very humble about being like a little bit affable
Yeah.
in a way that a lot of other action stars don't do. Like they're like very committed to being the cool guy and very committed to not getting hurt or getting beaten up. or losing a fight or anything like that. I love Vin Diesel or The Rock.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love.
Names, or what are we doing?
Yeah, that's something I love about Fallout, which we'll get to. I could spend 20 minutes talking about just about the bathroom fight sequence,
Oh my God,
because he and Cavill both get the shit kicked out of them in that, and it's so great to see.
We'll get there, but man. And then the end of this movie, where it's kind of like the chess game of like the final, like Solomon Lane is, I think he's supposed to be built up to be the anti Ethan Hunt, because the Syndicate is the anti IMF. And so the whole destiny thing of they are there, and Solomon Lane always knew it was going to end this, and then Ethan
That's exactly what he wants us to do. I love Ethan crashing out nonstop about like, but don't you see? He knew that I would do this. He knew that, which is why he did this, which is why we must do this. Like, it's really good.
Yeah. It is a proto The Entity moment. We're like, Ethan, what if that's what the Entity wants us to do?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Entity is just escalation of that sort of chess game.
Yeah.
Very good. No, I do wish Solomon Lane was a little bit more successful at times, I suppose, and a little bit more menacing, in the same way that Philip Seymour Hoffman is in the third one. Like, Philip Seymour Hoffman is just like winning pretty much a good chunk of that movie.
Yeah.
Even when it seems like he's losing, he still ends up on top, and he's just terrifying the whole time. He's just a very, very powerful force. And
he just gets more showy moments. And I think it's harder. I think they were circling something that they really nail in Fallout, which is the like the raspy, like subtle menace that he has. Not of that he's like necessarily super physically imposing, but that he holds all the cards and he knows more than you think you even want to know.
Yeah. They also start Mission Impossible 3 with the countdown sequence with Philip Seymour Hoffman, which is already making him the most menacing villain in this franchise. It's starting it off like that. 5!
Yeah. Dynamite introduction for sure.
Oh, fantastic.
All right. How many flute snipers out of 5?
I really do enjoy Rogue Nation more than I thought I was going to, because I remembered not liking it that much when it was in theaters, because I had just seen, Ghost Protocol a few years ago, and then the last thing that I'd seen was Fallout, really, and like the last time I saw Rogue Nation was like after Fallout, and Fallout is just such a step up, and we'll get there. But honestly, I think Rogue Nation, even though I forgot so much of it, when you are watching it and you're in the moment, it is like very, very good, and like very much a step up in terms of like smoothness of the plot, like Kirk was saying, than Ghost Protocol. And even though there are like very confusing elements, I don't think there's necessarily any holes other than the plot armor Ilsa has for the whole thing, which is, it's going to happen. It's
quite massive, but
this happens in all the action characters and all the action movies are going to have plot armor. It's just about how much, and she just happens to have way more than is allowed. And then she dies in Dead Reckoning. The plot armor,
all that just to get taken out by that other.
You only get so much plot armor. She used it all in Rogue Nation.
She did. Yeah.
She needed it. She needed it because she was very close to dying for a lot of it. But I do still enjoy it, and I still think like a lot of the action sequences are really great set pieces. And so I'm going to give it a 4, like Ghost Protocol.
All right, I agree with you. It feels like Rogue Nation was the redheaded stepchild of this trilogy, at least the way we would talk about it, especially because Fallout, became the creme de la creme, got all the praise, and well deserved, as we'll talk about. But going back and rewatching it again for the first time since it actually had come out in theaters, it's really solid. It's really, really good. So I'm gonna ditto a 4 flute snipers out of 5.
Wow, I'm still going 4.5. This is where I live for these. And if I could do 4.75, I would, but that's not allowed.
That's illegal.
I play by the rules.
Yeah. What's the thing that's keeping it from being a 5 for you, Kirk?
Honestly, the thing that is keeping it from being a 5 is Fallout.
Yeah. Let's talk about why Fallout solves a lot of the problems Rogue Nation has.
Yeah, I would love to. I want to shout out 2 things real quick about Rogue Nation still that I love. First of all, mission delivery. The whole record shop sequence, which I think is what gives Solomon Lane much more menace than even like the early Cobalt kill that he has, is him killing that poor record shop owner / agent. The hand scan on the record I love. And then secondly, it's a single shot. It's when they're talking about putting a mask on Benji. And there's a one shot where they like go, and it's a mirror where you're seeing him put on a mask, and
It's
then
a
you're
great
seeing
shot,
like
yeah.
tuck it in, and it's
Mhm.
the Terminator 2 thing that they do, where it's a body double
Yeah.
of Ilsa and of Tom, so you're seeing their backs and the actual guy that he's putting the mask on.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic shot.
Fantastic, just
Good
practical filmmaking all along. Love it all
It's
along.
incredible because it goes from him putting it on to turning around and having the other guy
Exactly.
sitting there, and so it
And
looks
tucking
like
it
he just
in.
actually
Yeah.
put on a real mask.
Yeah.
So it looks fantastic for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. Anyway, Fallout,
Fallout,
please.
the best. Oh
Yeah.
my god, dude!
Good
I have not
Lord.
had an experience in theaters like this, like up until that point in my life. Really, this was
Mhm.
pre Endgame. This was, I mean, just after what is it called? Infinity War. But
Yeah.
like to me, like the excitingness of the action in this movie was like unparalleled up until that point in my life, and I think still remains pretty close to being. I don't think anything's come out since then that I thought has matched the like action intensity that I've experienced watching this movie in theaters. It is
Yeah.
just the perfect amount of like high octane energy at times, as well as just very well shot and very well scripted story.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to finish it before this episode.
No.
But the good news
Oh.
is, of these movies, I've seen Fallout maybe like 6 times already.
Yeah.
I know this movie like the back of my fucking hand,
Yeah.
and I absolutely love it. And I got to watch the best parts, which is the Halo jump and the bathroom fight,
Yeah.
hands down, in like an incredible series of sequences back to back to back.
I always think that until I get to the end of the movie and see the helicopter chase.
Dude, it's true.
And
Yeah,
the cliff fight,
helicopter is so
and,
good.
and the fight in the cabin, and everything else. And you're like,
Yes.
oh my god!
It hits it
Final
all.
sequence is fantastic.
This
Yeah.
is the one where it's able to do it all. Not only does it have like, the centerpiece Halo jump,
Yeah.
but the fight is just as iconic.
Yes.
And that's just fisticuffs. And it's so
And
well
the bike
constructed
chase.
and beautiful. And
The
then the
bike
Through
chase
chase.
is
Paris.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You're talking about the like 45-minute stretch.
Yeah.
45-minute stretch. I was like, I was in awe watching. I was like, we're still going. We're just,
Yeah.
we keep escalating to another thing, and it's amazing. It's awesome. And it ends with him plowing through Ilsa. The aura
Yeah.
worked for him. He straight up drove right at him.
Tracks
Which
right
I thought
through
was
her.
a great callback. And
Uh-huh.
I do have to say, I think Lily we had on the Dead Reckoning episode. Maybe we'll get her on for Final Reckoning. But she did say, as part of the like Rogue Nation Fallout debate, that she loves Rogue Nation.
She
She
said
thought
it today when I was
Fallout-
watching it. She said Rogue Nation was her favorite.
Yeah, and said Fallout was very dependent on Rogue Nation. I still think it stands alone. However, Fallout is
Yeah.
definitely made better by
Yes.
Rogue Nation.
for sure.
Like a lot of those little callbacks, a lot of the Ilsa stuff, just work so much better
Yeah.
having seen that. So while Mission Impossible is probably, again, one of the franchises that like go in blind, you don't need to see every single thing. They explain enough to you. As it's progressed, McHugh has had his own little McHugh verse where he's sort of solidified the characters that he'll bring back over and over again, and the same themes and plot points. Again, we talked about Entity and how that connects with Solomon Lane and all of that. So I think, this definitely is elevated by having seen Rogue Nation and getting some of those payoffs. But in isolation, perfection, action, perfection. It's just amazing. It's so good.
Yeah. You were talking theater experiences. This was the this was the year of Movie Pass. This was the movie that broke Movie Pass. And I had that deal where you paid $5 a month to see literally
Me
anything.
too.
I like almost couldn't believe it. And I wasn't sure if I was like personally biased of like, man, 2 weeks ago I was sitting here watching Gotti, like all these movies this year have been like not really hitting, and now I get to see this. Like, does this just blow everything out of the water by comparison, or is this really just that good? And so I saw it 3 times in theaters. I dragged different groups of people. I was like, you have to see this movie with me. And it was just astounding every time. It never gets bad. Even the trailer for this movie is fantastic.
It's an iconic trailer. When he reloads his arms.
Oh my.
Again,
so
they need
so
to
good.
just put that into the movie. Like,
Yeah.
it needs to be an official sound effect in the
I
movie.
know. I wish they had included it. Because we get to that part of the movie and I go, oh. Because they don't include the...
You have to
It's
just
just
add
so
it
cool.
yourself.
And there's a wild shot in the trailer that didn't make it into the movie of a part of the helicopter chase where they're like down on a road and he's like driving head on into a truck. If you go back and watch it, it's only like one of the only good Imagine Dragons songs that they've like cut into this thing and put in some of the like dum 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 dum. One of the like top tier trailers. I mean, it's Social Network, and then it's that, you know.
It's an incredible trailer. The hype is very much real, and then I think the marketing around the Halo jump was it was the right call to do that stunt and not the helicopter chase, because we had the helicopter chase kind of as a surprise-ish towards
Yeah.
the end because we haven't seen much of it in the trailers.
Mhm.
And so that like is another great stunt sequence that can be kind of highlighted. He's flying the fucking helicopter too.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is really flying that thing around
Yeah.
in these action
That was a
sequences.
big point, and that's all they need. They need to
They
say
just
like,
said
"Hey,
it,
he's flying the helicopter," but
Yeah.
They only
don't
needed
show
to
us
say it.
too
They don't
much of
show
it.
anything. They were just like,
Yeah.
he does the halo jump. Look at him jump out. We won't show like the full sequence, but like, look, he is jumping out. And then also at some point he flies a helicopter for real. You'll see what
Mhm.
we mean. That's all
Yeah.
he needed to do. And
Yeah.
Dead Reckoning took that marketing ploy and then they just milked it to death too much. And then there just weren't any other terribly big action stuff other than the car chase in
Yeah.
Italy. And I was like, I just
And
wish
just
there was
the train,
more.
like the train sequence at the end, I still think
Mhm.
is fantastic, but it's not
Yeah,
as
yeah.
practical. Like it is aided definitely by like heavily by digital. And so you're
Yeah,
like,
yes.
well, you can't really sell that in the same way.
Yeah, there's a
But you-
big difference between saying Tom Cruise is actually flying that helicopter and Tom
Yeah.
Cruise is actually jumping that 5 feet up. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a big difference in shock and awe there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But God, Fallout is just such a fucking knockout. Even the beginning, starting with Wolf Blitzer showing up. Is
Oh my god.
Dude,
so
I
great.
remember that distinctly from the theater experience because I was like, no way, they actually did it. They nuked three major
How they
religious
lost.
cities,
Yeah.
and then that
It's
reveal
called Fallout. It's about the
Yeah.
fallout of what happened.
I totally bought
had
it.
me.
Yeah.
They so had me, and then when they did that, I was like, oh, this is it. We're in good hands.
This
Like
is
we're
different.
Benji finally
we're
gets to
now
wear a
in a new
mask and it's
mode.
Wolf
Yes.
Blitzer.
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then even on this one, I was like, I think it's really funny that they just had Wolf Blitzer, like he had to actually be there.
They all go, we
It's in
got it, we
character.
got it. And then Wolf
Yeah.
Blitzer walks up and he goes,
Did we get it?
I love it. I love it. He's there. He just
Yes,
has
we
over,
got
and then
it.
he does the mask reveal too. They go, okay, Wolf, we're gonna just pretend like you're taking off your mask, and we're gonna take care of the rest.
They've got that, and they bring back the tape, the like voice changer tape.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's got that on. I don't remember what the
Mhm.
other. He says something else, and then peels it off, and it's
Mhm.
his voice again. So
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
there were a
yeah,
couple
because he
movies
said
in there
one
where
other
always-
thing.
yeah, they're always bringing stuff back.
Yeah, Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, neither of them had like very big like face stuff going on because
Yeah.
Ghost Protocol the machine breaks and they can't use
Yeah.
it, and like the villain uses it, which
Rogue
somehow
Nation
he
they
got.
did though with the
Yeah.
with the imitating the British guy.
Oh,
They had to have a
right.
ledger,
They did
which was
do
great.
that.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And then they upped the ante here with this scene. But then later, again, that whole stretch was just phenomenal. But when they dupe Henry Cavill,
Fantastic.
so
Also
good.
so good.
Dude,
I was
first
just-
F-bomb in the
Yeah.
Mission Impossible
Yeah,
franchise.
yeah,
Great
yeah.
use.
Had to make it so fucking complicated. He really spits it out.
Yeah.
I,
That is
I
such a
don't-
great turn for his character. He's a very good villain in this one too. He might actually be the
Yeah.
second best villain as opposed to Solomon
He
Lane.
really is.
Because Solomon
Yeah.
Lane has a presence for sure over both these movies, especially in this one where he's like
He's
terrorizing.
popped up in this one. Him having the
Yeah.
beard, the scraggly beard, like that just
Yeah.
sells
It
it.
helps a lot. And then
Perfect.
his presence in like the not flashbacks, but like daydreaming sequences that Tom Cruise has with his
Yeah.
wife.
Uh-huh.
It's like the intense presence of like you should have killed me kind of
Yeah.
like amps him up a little bit. But Henry Cavill is just such a fucking force in this movie.
Mhm.
I love when what's her name?
Angela Bassett.
Angela Bassett says, "You have a scalpel, I have a hammer," and he has a fucking hammer the whole movie.
Uh-huh.
When he breaks the guy's face with the computer,
With the,
just
oh, with
immediately,
the yeah.
he goes, "What happened to the syringe? Didn't need it."
Yeah.
He just fully wallops the guy.
Uh-huh.
It's great.
For sure.
Oh my gosh.
And the
Angela
mustache.
Bassett is so great. Her and Alec Baldwin going like back
Again,
and forth in this.
Baldwin, a shame because he was fantastic. I
Yeah.
think they needed to have like a death like his in
I
here.
think it was
but
supposed to be Jeremy Renner because Jeremy Renner backed out of the movie because he didn't want to go in just for his character to get killed off, is what he said. And I think it was supposed to be that moment, and they just were like, "Oh, we'll just make that Alec Baldwin."
because I miss Brant. I did like him. I liked him
But
in
could you
Rogue
imagine how
Nation. The
kind of
little element he had
disappointing it
too.
would be? I was a little disappointed with his presence in Rogue Nation because I forgot he was in it. I forgot most of
Yeah.
the movie, but I completely
He's
forgot he was in
barely
it.
in it. Yeah.
And he's barely in it. He really doesn't do any action whatsoever. And he didn't
No.
even do much action in Ghost Protocol, but he did the jump. He did
Yeah,
some
he was part of a
fighting.
team for sure.
Yeah.
He was there.
Yeah.
But in Rogue Nation, he doesn't really do it other than running. He doesn't do any actiony stuff and like building a cage.
Yeah.
There's just
And
not much there.
I think Alec Baldwin has so much more presence than Jeremy Renner. Like, even though they're
I mean, that's true. Yeah,
in,
Baldwin
like-
chewed up this role in
Oh,
Nation
yeah.
and Fallout. Yeah, he was amazing.
I just don't know that, like, even technically Renner would have been in more movies than Baldwin. I feel so much more emotionally affected by Alec Baldwin dying than I think I would have been if it was Jeremy Renner.
Well, it's
I
just
would
it's
have
a
been like,
compelling
all right.
like him being number one Ethan Hunt op to being like number one Ethan Hunt supporter. Like he even told me, he was like, I'm in IMF because of you. Like I believe in you. So getting to see that play out where he's like, yeah, we're gonna pull this whole con because I don't like there's no way it could be you.
And it's a testament to his acting for sure. Because in Rogue Nation, when they do that reveal that he has the mask on and then they kid the real Atlee or whatever the British guy's name is, and then Alec Baldwin's like, you can see it on his face that he's putting it together. Yeah. And then he like nods and is like, okay, I'm in. I see the value that the IMF has. Yeah. I see how you operate now. You are necessary. Like IMF is you, Ethan Hunt, and this is what we need. So now I'm in. And so he's in from then onward.
Yeah. Should we talk Halo jumps?
Yes, dude. It's so good. I think it's so funny that there's actually 4 people jumping in this situation. It's Tom Cruise, the stuntman playing Henry Cavill, the camera operator, and then a second camera operator to capture the BTS footage of what's going on.
Exactly.
Because you need the BTS. You need to, even if they don't really show a lot of that BTS before the movie comes out, once it is out and people have seen the movie, all they want to do is see how did they shoot this, and then they show it. Yeah. They show the guy with the camera on his head. They show them in air shooting this thing with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And what I love is even though you do see the BTS and all that stuff, it's not like spoiling how it's going to be shot or what
it's even more impressive.
Yeah. Because you watch Dead Reckoning and it does spoil it. It's the exact same tracking shot. They just, instead of a ramp, it's a cliff now. And it's the same exact thing. Like I've seen him do it already. Yeah. But this time I'm like, I've seen him do it, but now it's a new angle. It's a new like thing that he has to deal with, the thunderstorm knocking out Henry Cavill, and he has to go and get him. We didn't know any of that stuff before. There's just much more on top of what we've already seen, and so it's such a great buildup.
Well, and even just the technical aspects of he has to fly for that like iconic shot where he like the real close up. He's got to be however many feet away to be close in the focal distance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to be totally blurry and the shot's ruined. And then you got to do it. And you have to jump out of a plane again to try to do it again. Like the precision of that is so impressive. And the way that it just all sequences through the lightning strike, through landing, through Henry Cavill looking and goes, lost your hair. Which is just the perfect button.
Yeah.
They have great little stingers in a lot of these things where you'll watch them do the most intense and crazy things and then they'll drop a line. Like in Ghost Protocol when Benji walks in, he goes, after he does the cliff jump to get back into the building, and Benji comes in, he goes, I did it. I just forgot the numbers. I didn't think I could do it, but I did it. What's going on here with you guys? They have a great little stingers at the end of these action moments, and they're fantastic. But then they immediately go from that into the bathroom sequence, which is one of the best like hand-to-hand fights in a movie you'll ever see. It's just so epic, and they both have like such value as fighters. Like Henry Cavill is obviously a force that's just trying to push through, and Tom Cruise is obviously like a much more disciplined fighter who's trying to like kind of size up his opponent and fight. And the other guy is just like a beast.
The guy playing John Lark is incredible.
Yeah,
so just fast and just punching everybody in the throat over and over again. Which like one throat punch, sure. After that, put your hands up, man. Like,
he just knows they're not going to
shame on you.
Like, he sees the opening and he's taking it. He's just going for it. And then also just shoots him in the face.
I know, which is great. Again, that like POV shot from Tom Cruise of the gun getting closer and closer to him, and then we hear the gunshot, and then boom.
Yeah.
It was once again saving
time. She goes, "Oh shit," because now she realizes what she's walked into.
It was a good line too when he was like, "Now we can't do the face mask because we needed a face."
You need a face, yeah.
And she's like, "Sorry."
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I was aiming for the chest or something. It's like, wow, that was a big miss.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was great. And then we go into the whole thing of him now impersonating Lark,
John Lark,
and meet the White Widow.
Another one of the most beautiful women in the world, Vanessa Kirby.
Vanessa Kirby's fantastic in this and Dead Reckoning. She's definitely great.
She gets significantly more chaotic, I think, in Dead Reckoning in a good way. I think she really has fun there. She's much more like kind of coy, sexy in this one, and in the next one, especially when she gets to be Haley Atwell playing her.
Oh, that's a lot of fun.
So much more fun. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun to play that role, I'm sure. Yeah, that is a great bit in Dead Reckoning. I forgot that happens. The whole the train sequence itself, once he's on the train, is great.
Yeah.
It's the cliff jump that was anticlimactic a little bit.
Yeah. Another great bit of face acting when she pulls out the butterfly knife because he thinks he's like really protecting her from these bad guys. She pulls out the knife and stabs them. And it's just a little look that he's like, you stab people? And she's like, I stab people. Like,
Ruthlessly.
yeah.
Goes hardcore.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was great. I also love the whole bit where they have to bust out Solomon Lane. Like that is the price to get back
Yeah.
the plutonium. And we see just that, again, another like nightmare sequence from Cruise, but it doesn't start out that way. You think it's just, oh, we're just going into the heist, and then we see the people roll out, and then they start killing the cops. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, this can't be right. Like, there's no way he would go along with this.
And it's this like haunting string score
Yeah,
over
like
it.
a depressing, somber music, and you're like, no, like he would never do this. And then of course we find out it's just him being like imagining what would happen. So he's like, now he's got to find a way to like check all the boxes, somehow get Solomon Lane, make sure he doesn't get turned over, somehow not kill any of the cops, allow none of the bad guys to kill any of the cops.
Yeah.
And still remain in the favor of the White Widow and impersonate John Lark. So it's like he's got to do all of that.
And the impossibility of a lot of the missions in these movies is not just accomplishing the mission itself, but doing it the right way, doing it the Ethan Hunt way, so that you ultimately feel good about the choices you've made.
Yeah,
because obviously Henry Cavill is like, let's just shoot them, let's just go through and let's just fucking kill them, and we'll do what we need to do. That's the cost of the mission, and that's the whole point of like the franchise, or this movie specifically, is it starts with him giving up the plutonium cores for Luther, and they're saying that's the cost of the mission. You sign up knowing that's the cost.
Yeah.
But I think that is the continuation of that first movie where he loses that whole team. He just will not lose another member ever again. He won't do it because and he won't cost life. He has no inability to separate the one life from the millions of lives. He won't let them die. And I think that gets amped up in Mission Impossible 3 because it starts with his protege getting killed.
Which is hardcore.
Yeah, and then it kicks off with his wife getting in danger, and then that carries through for the rest of these movies up until now, when once again his wife is in danger again.
Yeah.
And he's like, I did everything I could to separate her from this so that she could be safe. That was my solution for that, for keeping her safe, and it didn't work. And now I have to keep her safe again, plus all of my team, plus stop a bomb from going off and destroying this village and the drinking water. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I think this is a great usage of her. Again, just to talk about like a writing perspective, like the fact that she's a nurse is only useful in the last one, and that she like knows how to use a defibrillator. And so she can bring him back to life at the end. But other than that, it's not really central. The fact that Solomon Lane is able to work that in and be like, all right. Or that McHugh is thinking like, all right, she's a nurse. How about we have a biohazard happen? How about we have, this place where she can go, and it's right near a river, perfect place to detonate a nuclear like warhead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everything just clicks together so nicely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The in that whole ending portion where we're cutting back and forth between the helicopter chase and them all trying to find and defuse the bombs, I think they've gotten really good, and this is like the peak of it, of them being able to use the entirety of the team, because in Ghost Protocol they were doing something similar, again very similar plot beats of trying to stop a nuclear bomb from going off, but I just don't think it was as well executed. Again, car park versus helicopter chase, one is inherently going to be more exciting, but then also just what they had the other characters doing, there was more emotions involved, because we have Ethan Hunt's wife Julia is there with Luther trying to help defuse a bomb, do whatever she can, and then we have Ilsa with her past with Solomon Lane also trying to resolve that situation.
And they're also just it just feels more intense. They're acting so much more intense about it.
Yeah, there's just more stakes. The countdown is, there's more time in that countdown.
Their lives are
to build up
the bomb is going to blow up where they are.
Yeah, they're all screwed. Like if they don't,
as opposed to
get
Ghost
it,
Protocol,
they're
where it's
done.
like a bomb is going to blow up in San Francisco and we're in India. It's like the bomb is going to blow up in our face
right now.
We are diffusing it in person.
Yeah,
it
and
feels much more intense that way.
One mistake, you're completely done. And the same thing in Ghost Protocol, where it's like things need to be plugged in, and she needed to like plug in the hard drive or whatever it was to make sure that the thing could be diffused. This one, it all hinged on him taking the the firing chip out of the detonator. So it still relied on that, but they didn't have any communication, and they were just needed to straight up like trust each other as a team. And just wait until like the 2-second mark or 1 second mark as they have a nice little back and forth. 15 seconds from nuclear bombs going off, and they're still able to have some good comedic humor in there. So I thought that
plot
was
beats in this
excellent.
one are very similar to the plot beats in Ghost Protocol in the way that it's like we are there's a bomb at stake. Somebody has the bomb. Let's try and get the bomb. We can't get the bomb. Let's try and defuse the bomb. We can't defuse. Like it's very much similar stakes that are going on and similar plot points that are going on. It just feels like this is the version of Ghost Protocol that like amps up those stakes more and lands it a bit better in terms of explaining the plot better of why the bomb is going to be blown up, like why the villain wants to do this, giving that better villain to exist, making the action just a little more intense throughout, as opposed to like one really good set piece and then like maybe faltering towards the end. It just takes Ghost Protocol's plot and kind of works it out to be a little bit stronger, or a lot of it stronger, really, and then kind of hammers home that point by creating nonstop, really great action sequences around that plot.
Mm-hmm. Before we even get to that valley, though, and all of the helicopter chase and everything, we got to talk about that foot chase where he's running through, like sprinting through London. This is the peak of Tom Cruise running, where he's chasing down Henry Cavill and Benji's giving him directions, and they're like running through the church, and there's like a funeral happening in the church. He's like, sorry guys, like sprinting around this staircase. Lauren Baff has maybe one of my favorite scores of this entire series. Like this is the only one that I'll like put on in the background. That sequence with all the bongos where he's running around that church is insane. And then Benji realizing halfway through that he's been in 2D mode instead of 3D. Tom's gonna jump out the window, and then he leaps across and shatters his ankle in real life. I
love that the score for this one in particular. Not only is it like not only is it a little bit more creative in the instruments that they're using to make it feel more kind of like spy thriller-y as opposed to just a generic action sort of score. When they get to the bigger action moments, the horns are just blaring way more so than in other moments in a lot of these movies. Like Rogue Nation, the car chase, it was a deliberate choice not to include score there. They just wanted to hear the sounds of the cars going, which makes sense. But there's not really a moment where I think the score really stands out too much to me, because the other big action sequences in the opera house, which is they're just playing the opera, which makes sense. Like there's just no way to get around that. It is just how it is. And in this one, and then the end of Rogue Nation is just a little more anticlimactic. It's just like a small shootout kind of chase scene. But in this one, it's like action piece to action piece to action piece, and they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the horns just start getting louder and louder and louder, and they're doing that helicopter chase, and it's just going crazy. Bah, bah, bah.
Yeah.
Bah, bah, bah. It's just dominating everything. It's fantastic.
Should we talk copters?
Oh my god, dude, it's so cool.
When he just sprints up to the helicopter as it's taking off, you're like, what are you going to do?
What are you doing? I love that. It's like, oh my god, we failed the mission. That's my favorite parts of the movies is when, the mission has failed. They do the same thing in Ghost Protocol. They launch the missile. What are we going to do? Yeah. And the solution is, I'm going to gun the car and we're going to get it. And that's all it is. But in this one, it's like, oh my god, they've taken off now. They have the payload. What are we going to do? Like, it's over. And he goes, no, I can jump onto that. And he just runs. And he gets onto the thing and climbs his way up to the helicopter. It is the mission is never over until the mission is just never over for Ethan Hunt. He just never gives up.
And Benji has that line, I find it best not to look. Like, it's just like, that's Ethan. He's going to do whatever he's going to do. We're going to do what we can do here. Like, leave the helicopter climbing and then falling all the way down and then climbing all the way back up the rope. Leave that to Ethan.
That's what's so iconic about the Mission Impossible movies is that it is an impossible mission and they don't give up. And it's bewildering that there's never like a moment of like defeat. Yeah. Maybe for like half a second, but then they're going to pick themselves up and they're just going to fucking keep going.
And they have no idea. They're like, how are you going to get to that other helicopter? And he's like, I'll figure it out.
Figure it out.
Do what you got to do. I'll figure this out. And he's like, okay, how do I figure this out? Yeah. He tries to drop the payload onto the helicopter.
Yeah. Well, first he gets and it misses. The look of surprise on the guy in the helicopter when he just pops up from the side. It's like, how did you get here? And he's like, I don't know. And just kicks him. But yeah, dropping the payload, fantastic. Watching him figure out how to fly a helicopter. That gun is so sick. The way those bullets streak through the air.
It's like an anime. It's
just incredible. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's just so cool. I've never seen like two helicopters. The closest I've come to is like in Indiana Jones 3 when they're in the biplanes and they're doing the biplane fight sequence. It's very similar to that, but it's like it feels so much more real because these are helicopters that are being shot with really good cameras that are going a lot quicker than those planes were in very, very tight canyons. Like the stakes are just so much higher, and I think shooting the way they did gives it so much more motion blur around the helicopters, and it just makes it feel so much more intense. And I love that.
Yeah, it was very intense, well shot. The escalation of just issues, again, nothing works right all of the time. So his engine fails at one point too. So he's like, I have no more things to drop on them. They're shooting at me, but thankfully he's out of ammo, but I don't have a gun to shoot back. What am I going to do? He's like, now I just need to ram the other helicopter. I am now going to kamikaze into that helicopter. And then he sure does. And then they crash. And then we have that whole another like hand-to-hand fight as he's just trying to grab the detonator.
Great.
They fall over the cliff and they're just hanging on. And that
burn.
whole, the burn once he got sprayed with all that hot gasoline or whatever it was. And then, just the beautiful moment of him pulling on the hook, pulling on that. And then it just rips Henry Cavill off the cliffside.
The most brutal death of any character in these movies.
Yeah,
is him
hook to the head has
got
to get. Oof.
Before it was Philip Seymour Hoffman just standing up in a car hitting him, and now it's this. Because every other villain, they just get shot or something. Or
they just capture him. They just get put in a box, or they kill themselves.
It's never like that brutal. But dude, a hook to the face.
I guess John Boyd gets blown up, but like.
Oh right, but I mean,
it's no hook to the face.
Not a hook to the face. It's not the same. Yeah. That is crazy. I'm looking forward to see what they go with in Dead Reckoning 2 for SIU Morales.
Yeah.
Gonzalez? I forget what his last name
Morales.
is.
Yeah.
Morales,
Yeah.
What are they? Because he's got to die. Yeah. He has to die.
He's got it. He's got to have a fun death.
Yeah.
Do they have like they're gonna get into the sub and they're gonna drown the entity probably.
Yeah. Dude, these movies have become so nuclear. Every single one is about a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
It's the threat from now on is nukes. That's just all it is. And what is the most devastating thing you could do? Nuke. Back in the day in James Bond, it was like he just wants to rob the Federal Reserve and get the gold. Or no, he wants to. I guess that was a nuke too because he wanted to irradiate the gold and make his gold more valuable. Yeah. It wasn't even stealing the gold. He was going to blow it up with a nuclear bomb. I forgot. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's always been nukes.
Yeah, but I think that works as like a end-all be-all threat. Like Dead Reckoning starts with a nuke. Like when they're in the airport and Benji finds that suspicious suitcase, not only is just a bomb in the airport, it's a nuclear bomb in the airport.
Yeah.
So it's like, always a nuclear bomb. We're hitting that ceiling here.
It's never just a bomb anymore. It's always a nuclear bomb.
I'm hoping they can kind of make it change up the stakes.
Yeah, I want to see a villain who has different goals. That's why Skyfall was so interesting. Is that he was just like out for vengeance. It had nothing to do with nuclear control or like money or anything. He was just out for vengeance, and I thought that was like a very exciting, new-ish take for a villain to have. And then all the villains started being out for vengeance, and I was like, okay,
yeah.
Now we can go back to just wanting money or something. I don't know, because like what's his name in Casino Royale? Mads Mikkelsen. He's out for the money, man. He's just trying to make a bank.
Yeah.
And use cock and ball torture to get there. Iconic indeed.
That's the one thing that's missing from Fallout. If we could get a little C and B in there, then we'd really
Henry Cavill on Tom Cruise or Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill. What are we gonna do?
Or just instead of them like swapping out the tracker on Solomon Lane, they just get him in a bottomless chair, just kind of
start
swing a club at his testicles.
What kind of score do you think they put on that?
But it's still the best to me. It's still the best of all these movies, even with Dead Reckoning out. I'm hoping Dead Reckoning 2 can amp up the stakes a little more. I would love to have a new favorite because that would just be so exciting to see in theater. Is the final one? I imagine they're going to step it up from the first Dead Reckoning at least. I just hope that it steps it up even more from Fallout because I think that would just be a really cool way to end it as like the best movies, the last one.
Yeah. I think another thing that's remarkable about Fallout is it has like a happy ending, not even just like a successful like Rogue Nation and Ghost Protocol are like, all right, great, we did this, but there's still threats out there. There's more for the IMF to do. And this one, it's Tom Cruise is surrounded by all of his loved ones, and then they make him laugh, and he goes, "Ugh, the ribs."
Don't make me laugh.
He goes, "Yeah,
he did it. It's mission accomplished."
Yeah,
it's finally mission accomplished. Yeah. Do you think he's gonna die in Dead Reckoning 2? in Final Reckoning. It's the final reckoning. Does Ethan Hunt die at the end?
Trust me, one last time.
One last time.
No, I don't know. I
I don't
think
think so. I think Tom
don't
Cruise
he'll-
never dies.
Yeah,
No.
I think Tom Cruise never.
I think he's always going to leave the door open.
What's it called in Top Gun Maverick? They faked us out. Remember, it was supposed to be him dying, and then he gets up and he's back at it.
And now they're going to do Top Gun Maverick 3, possibly. Hopefully not, but we'll see. Again, I think they'll do Final Reckoning, and then he'll get antsy in 2 years and want to make another one, and then go for a stunt Oscar.
65 then. I don't know.
He's
He's got to
got
shoot that
stunt
movie in space.
He needs the stunt on. He deserves the stunt on. He deserves
A
like
space
an
movie should be the
honorary
Mission
award.
Impossible one. McHugh needs we need to talk with whoever was doing that one, and let's get Tom Cruise. Let's get Ethan Hunt in space. I think that's
What if
where we need to go.
what
I
if
don't
that's
want him
the
to go to
third act
space.
reveal for Final Reckoning? The
Could you
sub,
imagine?
the
That would be
sub
insane.
launches into space,
Dude.
and then we find out that this is the space movie.
Dude, I would. I don't know what I'd do. I would just levitate. I would die on the spot. Probably. I would just go to heaven.
Went to space secretly and filmed scenes. Would be insane.
I would join
It'd be
Scientology.
the coolest. My local Scientology chapter would be like,
Right, all right, you
got
got
this.
me.
Like, Scientology. Did you see the new Mission Impossible?
Yeah.
That's what we thought. You too can go to space.
Yeah.
You just got to become a level 9 Thetan or whatever. It is they do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you can reach space, and I'll be like, wow.
Yeah.
All Katy Perry had to do was just pay, but
They spent $150,000 to go up for like 3 minutes. What
That's
a waste
so
of money.
crazy. Yeah.
From liftoff to touchdown was 10 fucking minutes.
yeah.
That's
Very
weird.
I do not want to go to space for $150,000 for 3 minutes. I want to
Absolutely
go for
not.
like weeks.
Yeah.
We
I want to
going to-
experience it. Yeah.
I'm going to
That's
Epic
intense.
Universe for like $150 in a couple weeks. I will take
Yeah.
that over. That seems better than space. That
Yeah,
seems
you're
a
there
lot
for hours,
safer,
man.
frankly. Yeah.
Dude, Epic
Yeah.
Universe is great. I went already.
Is
It's
it?
fantastic.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited.
Yeah. I didn't get to do some of the rides I really wanted to do, but
Yeah.
I'll just say Donkey Kong, fantastic.
Really? Okay.
Love Donkey Kong. Yeah.
Nice.
And then the How to Train Your Dragon roller coaster. also
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Really, really solid.
Okay.
Loved it,
Sweet.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
But for Fallout, how many armory lids out of 5, gentlemen? What are we giving it?
I think it's obvious.
It's
Yeah.
very obvious.
We're all
I
giving
think
it
it's 5s all around.
5.
Full
Yeah.
5 all around. It is the pinnacle of action in this modern age, and it is like the standard with which all action movies that I see get judged against. It's like you've taken all the modern technology we have in filmmaking and you've applied it to an action film to the best of your ability, as well as like the ingenuity of storytelling that you have, and then the history of action movies to inform what it works and what doesn't. And it has worked in so many ways. It is, to me, one of, if not the greatest action films ever made. And
Well, because I was talking with quite a few people recently about it, and they're like, yeah, number 1 action movie of all time. It is the pinnacle.
It's certainly
So
up there. Yeah.
for you guys, what do you think? It's on the Mount Rushmore for me
It's
for
in
sure.
top
But
5,
what would you put above it?
Yeah.
possibly Mad Max, Fury Road, possibly the first Die Hard. I'm just absolutely in love with it.
You do love that one a lot.
Possibly Terminator 2.
You
I
know,
think
my
it depends.
answer is Fury Road or Terminator 2. I go
Yeah.
back and forth, but those are like, you can't get better than that.
Fallout is on the Mount Rushmore with those movies, though.
So
Absolutely.
it's like T2, Fury Road, and
Yeah.
For action specifically,
Fallout.
absolutely, yeah.
I think it depends how wide you cast the net for action.
As wide as you want it to be.
Because is Jurassic Park an action movie? Sometimes.
If we're talking about movies,
adventure,
not just
Yeah.
like I would call it an action movie, but it is a movie. Like I'm talking about it's not saying what is the best action movie. What we're really saying is what is the movie with the best action.
Oh,
I don't think
Yeah.
Jurassic Park is the movie with the best action. I think
No.
Die Hard is. I think Fallout is.
I think some of the
Fury
Wicks
Road
are.
is. Some of the Wicks for sure. I think John Wick 3
yeah.
in particular for me is a favorite. It would
Yeah.
definitely be up there in top 10 at least.
Yeah.
I think there are some like I think Face Off with John Travolta and Nick Cage.
Yeah.
I think
it's pretty
is
funny.
very,
I would say
very good.
though what you think of when you think of like Fallout or T2 or whatever is like action. I don't think
Yeah.
you necessarily associate that with like Jurassic Park.
Sure.
Like the action is in the first and foremost. Although there's great set pieces in there,
Yeah.
but you know the suspense aspect to it, the
Yeah.
wonderment aspect to it. Like
Yeah.
I think those come through better in Jurassic Park. So I don't associate that with like
Mhm.
action cinema when I think of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's
I
a good
think
shout.
Speed. I
'cause-
think Speed is a good choice.
dude,
Yeah.
Very good entry.
that is a great entry.
Yeah.
Love Speed. Love me some Speed.
I think White House Down is pretty solid with Jamie Foxx and Channing Tatum. I liked it more than I am proud to admit. and I think White House Down is solid. I think the action is solid in that movie.
Wow.
I don't think it's
Rushmore
I don't think
conversation.
No.
Okay.
But I think it's worth mentioning.
You just wanted to give a shout out to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
I see.
good because I'm a fan of Ryan, of the solo location action movie a la Die Hard. Like this is just a new version of Die Hard, and White House Down is just Die Hard in the White House. Air Force One is Die Hard on Air Force One. Speed is Die Hard on a bus. Speed 2 is Die Hard on a boat. Die Hard 2 is Die Hard in an airport. Die Hard 3 is Die Hard in New York City. You know, like it's the same like concept of just like one guy, a group of people he has to take out.
Yeah.
He's fighting them as best as he can. He's just getting beat the whole time.
True.
And it's just a favorite genre of mine. I love it.
Yeah.
And I think Die Hard, the first one, Die Hard 3, and Speed probably do it the best. But I think White House Down is also up there. I think they do a good job. In my opinion.
I think an adjacent, like not straight down the middle action, but a little side path is Tokyo Drift.
Sure.
Fast and Furious. I think as far as shooting car action.
Trying to resurrect our Fast and Furious debates here.
Hey, I picked Fast 5 for that one. If we find another Cinema Showdown.
Fast 5 is pretty good.
Oh no, I did 6. That's what I did.
You did 6.
You had 5.
Fast 5 won.
5 and I won. 6 was a crazy choice.
I pride myself on picking the wildest. Like if we did top action movie like ever for Cinema Showdown, I would pick like An American in Paris and argue that like dance is action. Like
wow, that's incredible. We should do that. That could be fun. I was thinking of either doing like an action one or best stunt in Mission Impossible, which would be fun to talk through.
Yeah.
But let's get our updated rankings on the Mission Impossible films. So now we can do them all. We'll even include Dead Reckoning in this one.
Yep.
So
let's go ahead and hear from Kirk first.
Yeah. Let's see. Are we doing bottom to top?
Bottom to top.
All right.
Your
At the bottom,
7.
I have Mission Impossible 2. Doves and all. 6, I have Mission Impossible 3. At number 5, I have the original Mission Impossible, which is no slight to that movie, but I think it's just how tightly grouped these top ones are. 4, I actually have Rogue Nation. I have Ghost Protocol slightly above Rogue Nation. Then Dead Reckoning, then Fallout.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have they switched? I thought when we did our first one, we all agreed Mission Impossible 2. Sorry to say, you're bottom of the barrel. Where you're not.
Yeah,
no one's putting you higher. But I thought Mission Impossible was below MI3 for you.
Look, it goes back and forth. Those two, I think, I have a soft spot when I start talking about 3, but when I actually go back and just watch them straight up.
Interesting. I might need to go back and watch those because it's been now 2 years since I've done that. But my list is Mission Impossible 2, then Mission Impossible, then Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Then Rogue Nation, then Ghost Protocol, and then Mission Impossible 3. And then Fallout on top, of course.
You love Mission Impossible 3.
I really love Mission Impossible 3.
That's crazy.
Dude, Phil
I'm a
Seymour
big
Hoffman is a killer in that movie.
He's so good.
He carries it so much.
Again, there's helicopter shenanigans in that as well that were very
Abrams,
good.
Yeah.
It's J.J. Abrams, right?
It's J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
He's a great
He
job.
gets a lot of flack nowadays, but
He's
if
fantastic. director.
you're being honest with yourself, like
he's a good director. The first Star Trek remake was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, he was
Really
pioneering. He was like what the
Lens
style
flare
for
who?
action was, like the Bourne style action. He was like carrying that, brought it to the Mission Impossible. There's a lot of emotional
He
elements.
said Paul Greengrass knows what he's doing. We're gonna do some of that.
Exactly. So, hey, I thought it was quite impressive. So I'd have to go back and see if I do put it over Ghost Protocol because I'll always have a soft spot for that one. Again, Burj Khalifa is iconic.
Yeah.
But
Interesting ranking.
yeah, my top 3: Fallout, MI3, and then Ghost Protocol. How about you, Dylan? Your full 7.
I'm shooting from the cuff here. I didn't prepare this, but I'm gonna go Mission Impossible 2, worst one. We all know. Come on. Mission Impossible 1 right after it, just because I think there are some plot holes in there that really drag it down, and gets a little boring in the middle. I'm not gonna lie. The opening sequence is like peak Mission Impossible. It's fantastic. After that, I'm gonna go with, unfortunately, Rogue Nation. As much as I really like it, and I think it does solve a lot of the Ghost Protocol problems, I just think it's unfortunately forgettable. There's just not much about it that like stands out to me, unfortunately. After that, I'm going to go probably Ghost Protocol. I think is a very solid choice there. And then Mission Impossible 3, and then Dead Reckoning, and then Fallout.
Wow.
Wow. There you go.
A lot of love for 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're quite low
Impossible
on
3 is awesome.
MI3, Kirk. I'm quite low on
Just
Dead
by
Reckoning.
comparison, I really like 3, but I think just by comparison,
Well,
the other ones just kind of eke it out.
They flip. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But you
I
guys
like
both had Dead
from what I
Reckoning
remember.
top
Yeah.
3.
Yeah,
I do like it.
I will say I have since rewatched. I've seen Dead Reckoning probably 2 or 3 times since we talked about it. I concede there are some plot shenanigans. Those keys do kind of come out of nowhere, and
That's
I
what
do
I'm
feel.
saying.
And
I'm
I was
just saying.
very entrenched on it, and I think I was feeling some stress for that movie's box office and trying to entice your incredibly wide listenership
Me
to go
too.
see it in theaters.
That was on my roster, so I wanted people to see it, but I had to, had to be honest. I had to report the truth, and I was like, the shine is wearing off a little bit.
Yeah.
I definitely want to rewatch it before I go and see Final Reckoning, but that one. I felt the high as everyone else did. A new Mission Impossible film in theaters. I'm like, yes, this is great.
Yeah.
But then the more I thought about it, I saw it a second time, and I was like, I don't know. I think we can do better. I think
you're right. I think the plot issues are very, very glaring, but I think it is some of the best action in the franchise. Like,
I want to be clear.
Yeah, the Rome chase. Fantastic. Well, not to get into some showdown stuff, but like the Rome sequence is legitimately like that's fantastic. And
oh my god, rolling the car. Oh my god. All right, that's the rankings. That's what we're dealing with going into Final Reckoning now. It's coming out very, very soon. Everybody go see it. If you like the show, please give us some 5 stars on whatever podcast you're listening to, and be sure to tune in next week. Kirk, thank you so much for coming out. You're the best. Thank you so much. We appreciate you so greatly. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, have a great rest of your day, everybody.